Hinges creak on doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls whenever candlelights flicker, and the air grows deathly still. That is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight. Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion Book Review. I am your host, John Riggins. What's going on, party people? Thank you for watching the video. Give me a like and a subscribe if you like what you see. It was really fun to do that last bit. Actually, I had to wait till sundown to do it right because I didn't have. It's too bright in here. I couldn't get it to work correctly. But today we're going to talk about something that's very important to me. Such among it being that it's one of my biggest fandoms, and that's the Haunted Mansion. I'm a huge Disney World fan. I grew up going to Disney World when I was a kid, and this is one of those videos that it's going to be very passionate. I'm going to talk about it, and I hope I don't ramble too much. So I'm going to try and keep my thoughts collected. Not like my first video, what I did about The Hobbit, where I was literally reading from a script. I want to keep this a little bit more live, a little bit more off the cuff. So what we're going to talk about today is the Haunted Mansion novels. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but there were some Haunted Mansion novels that came out fairly recently. Let me grab volume 1 here. And they're called Tales from the Haunted Mansion. This is an official Disney book series, and it is as told by Mansion librarian Amicus Arcane. And it was written by John Esposito, and the artwork was done, let me turn to the page here, by Kelly Jones. And I love the illustrations of this because these books are nostalgic for me for quite a few different reasons. And we'll get into those here in just a second. Let me actually adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. So that way I can get the shirt in. But it's nostalgic for me for a couple of reasons. So one, it's Disney. 2, it's the Haunted Mansion, which is my favorite ride at Disney World. And it was my least favorite when I was a kid because I was so scared of it. And then as I got older, I realized, okay, so maybe this isn't so scary. This is just a lot of fun. And the older I get, I'm like, you know what, that was a really cool thing. And I started getting into, like, not like I'm a horror movie buff or anything of that nature, but I definitely started getting into scary movies. Halloween was always my favorite time of the year. I actually secretly loved being scared, but I hated being scared when I was a kid. And as I got older, I'm like, I love being scared. It's great. But this is nostalgic for more than just being from Disney and the Haunted Mansion. It's because of the author as well, John Esposito. And the reason is because John Esposito, let me read a little bit about his biography here. John Esposito, John has worked on both film and television on projects such as Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, that's where I recognize this writing style from, Teen Titans, and The Walking Dead web series, for which he won consecutive Writers Guild Awards. So that was, for me, extremely kind of a throwback, because I'm like, wow, this reads like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Or like Goosebumps or something like that. Specifically, it reads like Are You Afraid of the Dark? So he definitely takes a note from that television show, and I'm going to tell you why. Because in each one of these books, and there are 4 in total, it reads with one overarching story, but then little mini stories kind of spattered in between, because the author, or the teller, Amicus Arcane, who is a little ghost librarian, or as you'll find out in the first book, and I don't think it's actually too far away. It's like in the first very bit. Yeah, it's in the first couple of pages you find out that the ghost librarian is actually the ghost host from the ride. And I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. So they actually put a name and an identity to the ghost host. And it's interesting because there are a lot of different throwbacks in this series to the ride, and not just the ride in Walt Disney World, but Disney World, Disneyland, Disneyland Paris. And that's really neat because one of the ways that it describes the book series is that it looks like this, or it looks like a stately manor in the South, or it looks like a Gothic manor in Boston. It looks like a manor on a hill, and it's always like it's a manor on a hill is what they always describe it. It's a house on a hill, which is also a throwback to Phantom Manor, and they even reference Phantom Manor a couple times in here as well, which is really neat. And the other reason, and I'm going to show you, let me skip this a little bit of the artwork here. Like, see this right here? It's going to be kind of hard to see because it's faded. But you could kind of tell right here, there's some ghostly images in that. And that reminds me of, Are You Afraid, like, not Are You Afraid of the Dark, but Tales to Tell in the Dark, or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was recently a movie done by Guillermo del Toro. I personally think he did a pretty good job with it. Yeah, there were some things wrong with it, and there were some cliches, but I feel like they were cliches that work, and they made me feel nostalgic. But the author, or not the author, but the artist, like, look at that. Having a hard time. There you go. Like, that kind of work it's all etched work. So, and you can still see some of the pencil lines in it too, which is really neat, and I love it. And some say, "Oh, that's just sloppy. That's unfinished." Like, no, that's actually really cool. That's how I draw, and it makes me feel. It makes me feel like I'm looking at a picture from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like, it was kind of that very loose, very just stark black and white. Like, see that? And what's even cooler is, and you can see it on the page next to it. Let's actually skip to a page that doesn't have anything else like that there. Here, it's the wallpaper from the Haunted Mansion. It's the purple wallpaper, although it's in black and white. And it's even got like weather stains on it. It's really cool. They do a great job with these books. And all in all, they're real easy reads, and you can read one of them in a day. Like, as an adult, you can read one of them a day. So all in all, what I have to say about these books is definitely pick them up if you're a fan of the Haunted Mansion, and if you're a fan of like nostalgic, scary stories, because they are good. John Esposito does a great job transcribing Amicus Arcane's tales to these books. So I guess one of the things I really want to talk about with these books is the actual story itself. The first book, we'll go into details of the books, and we'll get into a spoiler review later, but this is kind of an overarching, just kind of generalization of the books. The first book is entitled The Fearsome Four. The Fearsome Four is about literally 4 kids who sit around telling ghost stories, and they tell whoever is the scariest story, tells the scariest story, wins. So they get an invite to the Haunted Mansion to tell their scary stories. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. I was like, why does that sound familiar? And I was like, oh crap, that sounds like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it's like, that's why I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to admit, when I read the first book, I was a little turned off to it because I was like, wow, this is really juvenile. Like, with some of the words they use, with some of the with some of the descriptive language, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. But it doesn't last long, and that's good, because I think the writer, I think Mr. Esposito probably understood that, I'm probably writing this too childlike, so he stepped up the game as it went on, and you definitely see that tone shift in the second book, which is about a young man who is trying to contact the spirit of a dead loved one, and he doesn't believe. Honestly, this is a pretty good book. I like this one, I think, probably best of all of them. Grim Grinning Ghost was good because it details 3 criminals who get asked to go to the Haunted Mansion and deliver some priceless artifacts. And then, oh wait, no, I showed you the wrong one. This is Memento Mori. The Midnight at Madame Leota's, that was the second one. I'm sorry, this is the one about the young man who's trying to find the spirit of a dead loved one, kind of trying to make contact with him, and he gets to meet Madame Leota in this one. Madame Leota makes her first appearance in the series in this one. It's very good. And let's see, then this one was Grim Grinning Ghost. This is the one about the 3 convicts, and it's interesting because it's volume 3 and it's centered around 3 people. It's really kind of neat. I don't know if he intended it to be that way, but it's like 3 people. This is literally about 2 people being reconnected. This is the first volume, so I mean, that obviously that number couldn't happen, but there are 4 in total. So here's some 4, which was kind of neat. And then of course there's Memento Mori, which is the last of the series, and honestly, it was really creepy. And it was really interesting how it all tied together, like how he weaved it all together, because it's about this lady who's a writer, and she gets invited to the Haunted Mansion too. Every one of these books, someone gets invited to the Haunted Mansion in one way or another. And in this one, the lady who's a writer, her name's Prudence Pock, she gets invited to the mansion, and she's in an insane asylum telling her story about the haunted mansion. Stay hydrated, kids. 2020. All in all, this is a great book series, and like I said, it starts out very juvenile. It's definitely meant for young readers, probably around the age of 13 and up. And it gets progressively more mature as it goes on. I just love the books too. Like the books themselves. I got the hardcovers. This was a Christmas gift from my wife. Like Brittany, I love Brittany so much. She knows exactly what I like. She got me this. She got me the Madame Leota's. Was also my Christmas present, and she got me these. And she gave me my Valentine's Day gift early, which I don't have in here. I should probably get it at some point and show it off. But she got me the little Doom buggy from the Walt Disney shop, and when you press it, it plays. Love that song, but yeah, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Haunted Mansion, and for those of you who don't know, this isn't going to be like a Haunted Mansion video or anything of that nature. If you want to check out a Haunted Mansion video though about like the rides, specifically like the rides in Disneyland, then you want to go check out. Even in Disney World too, you want to go check out Offhand Disney. Dallin does a great job. He's got the 31 Days of Halloween that he did a while back. I watch it every year. So I don't even watch it at Halloween. Like I'm posting this. I'm not even posting this at Halloween. But and I really feel like I'm missing an opportunity. But since I got the books for Christmas, I can't wait a year to talk about them. I have to talk about them now, and I absolutely love them. So if you're looking for a good video about the Haunted Mansion, I suggest going to Offhand Disney. I also suggest checking out Provost Park Pass's channel. He did a really awesome secrets revealed of the Haunted Mansion. A friend of mine at work turned me onto his channel, and I've been following them since they've been going on their 8-week world tour. And you guys can go support those guys. They're great Disney vloggers. There's another Disney vlogger that I want to give a shout out to. Let me pull up his name real quick. Sean Roswell. Sean G. Orlando. He's at Sean G. Orlando on Twitter. I'll definitely put the links to him on there. Definitely check him out because I love his channel too. He's real funny, real nice guy, and I love the work that he does. So definitely go check out those people if you're interested in more Haunted Mansion and Disney World information and vlogging. But let's get back to these books. Throughout each book, you're going to get narration from Amicus Arcane. Now, there are some bad things about this book. Don't get me wrong, these aren't perfect by any means. So I'm going to talk about the bad real quick. The bad things about these books is if you're an adult reading them, they are juvenile. So you're going to take a look at a lot of things, and you're going to be like, okay, that didn't sound right. You obviously aren't in it with the kids right now. Like words like jerkoid, and there was another, let me see if I can find it real quick. Moronsky. That was it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, Moronsky. I was like, first of all, I don't know any kid that calls another kid a Moronsky. You're just trying to come up with a name because, you know, it's Disney. And, you know, Disney's definitely got their fingers put all over this. But I want to make a comparison. Now, I said this is kind of a bad thing, and it is. But let's talk about something real quick with these. So this is all one big Disney reference. There's no getting around it. There's nothing wrong with it. But I want to compare it to a book that I read recently, which was the Disney book series Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel too. My wife and I were reading that together. I was reading it out loud, like a chapter a night, and that was kind of our routine before we went to bed. I enjoyed it, but kids in Massachusetts only dress up for Halloween as Disney characters, and it pissed me off. Like, there's another Disney. You don't have to describe the costumes. I know, corporate strings. You know, gotta put that Disney in there. which is fine, you know? But when you pass like 5 groups of different kids who aren't talking to each other, who aren't friends with each other, and they're all dressed as Disney characters, something's amiss! Even in the original movie Hocus Pocus, there was only a couple of Disney references in the cartoons. I mean, heck, one of the kids was dressed up as Sonic the Hedgehog, and that's not even a Disney property. Anyways, but you don't get that with this. I mean, you do, but you don't. And the references always stay within the Haunted Mansion, and that keeps it nice. I mean, there are other few Haunted Mansion references in here, and there's still Haunted Mansion references. But there's a couple of people in here that when they talk to them, there's a young girl at a science fair in one of the books. I think it was actually number 4. No. It was volume 2, actually, when they talk about the science fair that this kid was at. Or no, there was a science fair, but it wasn't a science fair. It was a world thing. They make a couple of references to It's a Small World ride. They make a reference to a couple other Disney rides, but specifically the reference I was talking about, this is really cool, is they make references to some of the Disney Imagineers who worked on the ride. There was a little girl named Claudia Coates. If you don't know who Claude Coates is, he's one of the guys who worked on some of the original rides. He was one of the top, I think they were called the 9 Old Men. I need to check that reference. But he was one of the guys that worked on it, Claude Coates. Claude Coates, Mark Davis, Ex Atencio, the references are all there. And it's really cool that they throw that out there for it. My favorite one, though, my favorite reference to an Imagineer, and this really isn't, this isn't a spoiler or anything, it's just the name of a character, is a kid named Roland, and they call him Rolly, which is a reference to Rolly Crump, who was the guy who worked on the Museum of the Weird. Again, I learned that from watching Offhand Disney's Tales of the Haunted Mansion that he did, and where he talks about talking to Rolly Crump, whom he knows personally. I don't know if Rolly Crump is still alive or not, but there are all sorts of references in these books. You'll get them. You'll love them. They're not terrible. Like I said, they're real easy reads because this is juvenile fiction. So if you're an adult reading these, keep reading to the end because they totally call you out for it. It's so cool. The guy who reads this is like, you're reading this for a reason. You're an older person reading it. Oh, you pick up, put the book down, hide your shame. I love it. I love that line. I won't tell you what book it's in, though, mostly because I don't remember. But these are they're such good. It's done by Disney Press. They did a great job with it. I love the colors on it. My favorite color scheme, though, is on the second one, Midnight at Madame Leota's. It's hard to see. It's hard to see on my camera. I need to get a better camera, but it's this purple and green. It's very Maleficent type colors, actually. And it looks yellow on here, but it's actually green. It's so beautiful, and they just do such a great job. I love a good print. And these are really stout, very sturdy books that could take a lot of abuse. I love this picture. That's a picture of Amicus Arcane. Now, the artist who does Amicus Arcane, again, I'm trying to remember her name, and I can pull back. Kelly Jones. I was going to say Kelly Johnson, but no, I was right. It was Kelly. Kelly Jones. I love this. I'm going to read her biography real quick. Kelly Jones. For illustrations accompanying these terrifying tales, Amicus Arcane approached Kelly Jones, an artist with a scary amount of talent. Kelly has worked for every major comic book publisher, but is best known for his definitive work on Batman for DC Comics. Kelly lives in Northern California with his wife and children, and hears from Amicus every October 31st, whether he wants to or not. So I learned something today, that Kelly is actually a guy. For the longest time when I was reading this, oh, Kelly Jones, she sounds like a nice person. Sorry, Kelly! My apologies! I don't think that that's really an insult, but that's just me not paying enough attention. And honestly, sometimes artists don't get as much attention as they should. But this is really cool. Well, the one thing I would have to say about Kelly's interpretation of Amicus Arcane is, and I understand it's a Disney book, but the description dictates that Amicus is very skeleton-like. Like, extremely skeleton-like. And, like, bits and pieces of him could fall off at any time, basically. It's just a skeleton held together by dust. Like a very skull-like face. But as you could see in that particular image, it wasn't extremely skull-like, but it was still a good image, and I liked it. And he had this nice grin, this nice evil, dastardly grin. Loved it. I love pretty much everything about these books. And I'm definitely going to reread them again. I'm going to make it my October... They're going to be my October reads every October. When my kids, I'm having twins, by the way. We're so excited. These are going to be the ones I read to the twins every October 31st. Because while they are goofy, gory fun, it's not so gory that it's overly scary. The imagination can do wonders, obviously. But it's definitely good for the family to read together. It's definitely good. I would definitely suggest it for people who are, for young readers who are at least around the age of 13 starting out. Because these are pretty good. These are just pretty good. They're just really good. They're my favorites now. They're some of my favorite books now. I didn't think I'd have a favorite book in a long time because I haven't been reading a lot lately. In fact, this is just kind of a spur of the moment thing. I love the way they feel. They're good. They have great stories. It's good writing. Great references to the ride at Disney World. Great references to other rides, but not just like, oh, all these other rides, just like a few, you know, just to touch some of the more famous ones, and it's really cute, and it really does feel like when you sit down and read it, it really does feel like you're reading an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And this is my personal opinion. Disney, if you're watching this video and you're listening to me, and I hope you are, you need to make this a Disney Plus show. I am not joking. This would be great as a Disney Plus show because you could literally lead it in like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark or Tales from the Crypt. Oh my gosh! Could you imagine Disney doing their own version of Tales of the Crypt, but with the Haunted Mansion and Amicus Arcane being the Crypt Keeper / storyteller / librarian? Oh my gosh, that would be great! And then like you talk about the Fearsome Four, you could talk about the Fearsome Four, and then you could make it all about the kids. And then you talk about Madame Leota and the guy who went seeking his lost relative. That'd be a great second season. You could do these tales and like you could do the first book. Like the first book can almost be a season of itself. Almost be a season. Because you could lead it in with something that happens in between or in the past. And then it comes back to their tale. And then you come back to the next one. It's like, what's going to happen to the next kid? What's going to happen here? What's this going to do? What are they going to do? It's crazy. And then you come to this one. This would be a great second season follow-up. Third season might not mesh too well into it because this was kind of actually more removed from the first two. That was the other thing about it. The first two are very well connected. The third one is still connected in that they're telling tales and they have one overarching theme, but it isn't exactly connected. You don't feel the connection with this one. But then it all comes back together with Memento Mori, which is really good. It's very dark, but it's a good ending to these. And it brings it around full circle back to the Fearsome Four. I really liked it. I highly suggest reading it. It's almost like the way the books work. It's almost like Disney World and Disneyland and Disneyland Paris are actually all one and the same. And not just that they're one and the same, but they're an actual town. You know, it's almost like it's its own town in a fictional world, like an alternate universe of Earth. And that's how they're able to bring it all together. They talk about Liberty Square. They talk about New Orleans Square, things of that nature. And it's like, these are actual townships, not just like places in a theme park. Because if you think about it, the places in this theme park are big enough to be small towns. And I think that's what makes these books more believable. Because you'll see references to places in Disney World. You'll see references to places in Disneyland. And if you're on your knowledge of the Haunted Mansion, you'll get the references that this guy does. Because let me tell you something. John Esposito did his homework on these. Oh my gosh, did he do his homework. He did his homework on the history of the Haunted Mansion, the people who worked on the Haunted Mansion. These are great book series, and I highly suggest reading them. Now, I think that's where we're going to go ahead and end the video. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into some spoiler videos a little bit later on this week, and I'm going to talk about the first book. We're going to talk about the Fearsome Foursome. We're going to talk about the kids, the characters, the overarching stories, what's great about them, what's bad about them, and then, of course, we'll follow it up the following week with Midnight at Madame Leota's, then Grim Grinning Ghosts, and then finally we'll end with Memento Mori. So I look forward to doing those videos for you. And of course, as always, we'll be wearing an appropriate shirt and hanging out in the Nerd Cave. As you can see, I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, so I got my Ninja Turtle wall thing there, wall scroll, and then I've got my Ninja Turtle arcade game that my girlfriend gave for me for Christmas. My girlfriend, my wife, she's everything. We're recently married, so it's hard to say my wife sometimes, and I say my girlfriend still. She doesn't mind. She doesn't care. Anyways, love you all, and we'll see you all soon on the next one.